have you ever felt like you're an absolute failure because your kids are driving you absolutely crazy with their behavior? I know I have, and I have found that I don't have that feeling anymore because I've come to understand it. Children's behavior is actually the symptom and not the problem. The overwhelm or this sense of failure comes from us believing that the behavior is the problem and trying to fix the problem and looking for the solution there. And of course, when we're looking for the solution in the wrong place, of course, we're going to fail. Research has shown us that behavior for adults and children alike is a result of the way we're feeling, and the way we're feeling comes from the way we're thinking in the moment. And so if we can get to the core issue of what's going on, then inshallah, we're going to have better success at turning our children's behavior around. So there was a time when I felt like an utter failure. Everyone was telling me that it's because I wasn't consistent that my children weren't behaving. You know, subhanAllah, how hard is it as a parent to be consistent 100% of the time? It's not really possible for us as human beings to be consistent in anything, right? We have times where we're inconsistent. The parenting shouldn't be that hard, that we have to be consistent 100% of the time in order to get our children to behave. But that's what I was being told. So I felt like a failure because I couldn't be consistent. So then I did 1, 2, 3 magic. 1, 2, 3 magic is a way where you say that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, assuming they already know what's wrong, and then they go to timeout if they don't behave. Now that works when children are on track and they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. They realize straight away, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, and then they can change. But if something big is going on for them, then they can't think straight, and that doesn't work. And so then as a parent, you feel like a failure because it's not working. So I tried rewards charts, and yes, it works sometimes, but not consistently. And there'd always be the one child that was always missing out on the rewards because they were having a rough time and they couldn't get their behavior on track. And so it became an unfair system where that child felt worse because they couldn't work things out. And the same with the consequences. I had a pocket money system where I would deduct pocket money if they did the wrong thing. Same thing is one child, if they were struggling, would end up with no pocket money and then feel like it's really unfair because everybody else had pocket money. And it didn't serve to teach them any lessons. It didn't work that way. And so it wasn't until I came to understand that our behavior comes from our feelings that come from our thought in the moment that things started to clear for me. And I was able to see that my children's behavior is actually telling me that something's going on for them, that they're feeling disconnected from me. And they're either feeling disconnected from me because I'm disconnected, I'm off track, I'm emotional, or because something's going on for them. It might be that they're scared, there's something they're fearful about, or something they're insecure about, or they're going through developmental changes. There's a whole range of reasons why children would be off track. And so my whole attitude towards their behavior shifted. And it was that shift, that understanding, that really changed for me the feeling of their behavior driving me crazy. Yes, their behavior drove me crazy when I was trying to manage their behavior and following techniques that didn't work. But when I came to understand that their behavior was telling me something, it stopped driving me crazy and started directing me to the solutions, to how I could show up for my kids and how I could actually help them when they're feeling challenged, because that's what was happening in those moments. So the first thing I'd have to do is check with myself. Like, am I off track? Am I emotional? Am I stressed? Is my mind somewhere else that they're finding me not emotionally available? They're not able to connect with me. And so their behavior is really just mirroring the fact that I'm off track. And so therefore it's about me getting myself back on track and coming back in a connecting way with my kids. Or if I check in with myself and I'm okay, then it's telling me something's going on for them. They're struggling, they're feeling challenged in some way or another. And what they need is my compassionate attention, my compassionate and calm attention to help them figure it out. They might end up in tears. They might end up in tantrums. They might end up, having moments of being really like pushing us away in those moments. And some of that is quite normal reaction to whatever it is they're going through. And our job is to stay with them and love them regardless of what they're going through, regardless of how their behavior is. Now, yes, there is limits. We don't allow anyone to hurt themselves, hurt others, or break anything. We must draw a line there. But when it comes to them really having a tantrum or crying, we allow that process to flow in a safe way. So I can share more details perhaps in another video about setting limits and all of that sort of thing. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is actually to get you to just see that their behavior is a symptom of what's going on for them. And when we can see that, it ceases to be something that we find overwhelming or stressful or annoy or get annoyed with. We don't find ourselves driven crazy by it. Well, maybe sometimes when we're a bit off track, we might actually go back to that. And yeah, so that does happen. But overall, generally, we're more able to see what's really going on, check in with ourselves and make sure that we are being emotionally available to our kids. And then if we're sure that we're okay, then checking in with the kids, what's going on. Now, that doesn't mean we give them 20 questions. Oh, what's wrong? What's going on? Because kids aren't able to articulate that. That's why their behavior is off track. That's why they're sort of communicating with us in a way which we need to understand, because that's their way of expressing the confusion, the tension, whatever it is that's going on for them. They're mucking up their misbehavior. They're sometimes even their rebellious behavior, pushing against us, their obstinate behavior, their stubborn behavior, their disrespectful behavior, all these different labels we could give it. I just call it off track, because when we call it off track, we realize that the solution is to bring them back on track. And how do we do that? By connecting, by calmly connecting with them in a compassionate way, listening to what's going on, listening to them. If it's just sobbing and crying, knowing that just being there for them through that may be enough, because kids are pretty resilient and sometimes they just need to release that emotional tension and they're fine. Their good thinking comes back and you don't need to do anything at all. Sometimes though, when they've had that moment of that emotional outburst, whatever, released, and their good thinking has come back to them, they're able to tell us what's going on, and there's opportunity perhaps for us to be a part of the solution with them. But we can't tell why they're in that emotional state, while their behavior is off track. And one of the rules, I guess, that helps parents, especially if you've grown up with this view that kids should never be disrespectful, and so when they say something which you would call disrespectful in that moment when they've got this big struggle going on, you can get big feelings come up in that moment because you know, hey, they're being disrespectful, that's not okay. One of the things we can do is just say anything that is said in that moment, we don't take it personally. That doesn't mean we give them free rein to say whatever they want, because we can talk to them about that later when they're back on track, and say, you know what, it's not okay to use that language, or it's not okay to speak to me like that. And sometimes with bigger kids, we need to set that limit in the moment. But the key thing is for us to not take it personally and not get riled up in that moment, because then we're no good to them. When we've got our big feelings come up, now we're not able to connect with them. And so we're not able to help them with whatever it is that's going on for them. So if we can see whatever comes out of their mouth in that moment and their behavior as being off track, them not thinking straight, and that they're not doing it on purpose to hurt us or harm us, that they're just venting, letting out what's going on for them, and that our job is just to be there and see them safely through that process, then we don't have to take it personally, and we can stay calm and we can be the best parent that they could ever desire to have. And what comes as a wonderful result of that if you do that when kids are young, is that when they're teenagers, they know it's safe to come to you, even when they've really stuffed up, even then they've really got themselves into a mess. And isn't that what we want? We know our teens aren't going to be perfect. Don't we want them to come back to us first? Don't you want you to be the first port of call when they want to solve a problem? We establish that through this process of really being there for our kids from when they're young. And if your kids are older, it's not too late, because my eldest children my eldest was already a teen when I learned all about this. And he comes and talks to me. My youngest was 5 months old when I started learning this. So he is, he's grown up with this way of parenting, and I can see the difference. So I have my own guinea pigs, my children, as my example of this actually working. Yes, my teenagers have got into things that they shouldn't. Yes, there's times when they've done things which are displeasing to me and displeasing to Allah. However, at the end of the day, they reach out to me, they talk to me, we work it out. I become their ally through the problem-solving process, which is the best thing I can ask. And I would much rather them go through all of that where they're living under my roof than for them to pretend that everything's okay, and then when they leave home, struggle and not cope with the world. So if they're going to stuff up, I'd rather them stuff up while they're here under my roof so that we can work through the solutions together. What I'm seeing with my eldest two is they're becoming very sensible people, which is beautiful to see. They haven't been. They have been right off track. And understandably, because my first marriage was a very abusive marriage and they went through a lot of abuse. They have had a lot to work through, and they have been, alhamdulillah. So there's always something going on when your children are off track, and it might be coming from us or it might be coming from them. At the end of the day, if we can focus on making sure that we stay on track as much as we can, that we see their behavior as an indication that they need us, not as an indication that they're trying to cause dramas for us, we won't feel that they're driving us crazy. We will be able to show up for them. We will be able to assist them through whatever they're going through. And then out the other end, our beautiful child emerges with their good thinking again. And you can just see how beautiful and how possible it is when you're able to parent this way. Alhamdulillah.